How do you get a job if you are not allowed to meet people? When humans make plans, the gods are laughing. Today we meet Shannon Digby. Shannon just arrived in Germany. She's so happy to leave the airplane that brought her all the way from her old life in New Zealand. Right now, she is standing at customs. She hands the border guard her passport and she smiles. Because the border guard just saw her living permit for Germany. The permit's paper is so new, it still smells. Shannon walks out of the airport and into her new life. The first item on her to-do list? Get a job. That was about 2 months ago. The week after her arrival, coronavirus hit Germany. The gods are really laughing when humans make plans. My name is Chris Piak and you are listening to Living Unconventionally, a show about brave people who chase their passion around the world and build a better life in a foreign country. I am Chris Piak and I'm a business coach by profession. I help people to find their first job in a foreign country. Today, I help Shannon to figure out how she can build a human connection with the people who decide if she gets a job. Even though she cannot leave her apartment, she's a complete stranger in this country with nobody to recommend her. And she doesn't even speak the language. At the end of this call, Shannon will know how to connect with decision makers and build trust, so that she gets a proper job interview. And so will you. But now, Shannon arrived. Let's get started. This coaching session is different from what I normally do in 2 respects. First of all, usually when I talk to a coachee, that is confidential, of course, so nothing ever gets out what we discuss. In this session, obviously that's different because we record this for my podcast, so the people who are listening to the podcast will hear what we talk about. The second difference is that usually we would have some time, like at least 1.5 hours, so that I could guide you step by step to the goal that you try to achieve. In this session, we only have 30 minutes, which means that you should choose very wisely what you try to achieve within this half hour. Because obviously you cannot solve all of your problems in 30 minutes. You have to pick the most important problem where you want to make a progress. And then we talk about that and we try to get you to a solution there in this 30 minutes. Is that fine?
Yes, fine.
Good. Some other stuff is, of course, the same, no matter if it's a private coaching or on air coaching. First of all, everything you do here is voluntarily. If I ask you something and you don't want to share this information, then you simply tell me that, I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable talking about that, and I will move on. Also, because this is voluntarily, it means that you are in charge. Now, if you imagine this coaching session as a sea travel, then you are the captain and I'm the pilot. Okay. I can point out some underwater rifts that you can avoid, point out a course that might be getting you to your goal faster, but you are the captain, you decide if you want to take this road.
Okay.
Which means, of course, that you are also responsible for the results, because at the end of the day, only you can get you to the goals that you want to achieve. My coaching philosophy is based on 2 pillars. I do value-based coaching. I believe we can only do our best work if what we are doing is in harmony with our own values. And it's based on the fact that we are social animals. We need other people in order to succeed. That said, when you think about the next 30 minutes and you imagine for a second that this conversation is over and you hang up the phone, what would you have liked to achieve in this 30 minutes so that you feel like this was really useful for me? This was not a waste of my time.
I would really like to come out of this 30 minutes feeling a bit more confident about how to approach hiring managers online, how to get them to want to share their company's problems with me.
Mm-hmm. And how, if we formulate this the other way around, how would you know that you achieved this goal? What would be different after the goal than it is now?
I think I would just be more confident about what things I could write or say to get that in, to get that little get in.
to get them to interact with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that's very specific, and specific is always good. Maybe tell me for the start a little bit about what you have done so far in this respect, so that I understand where you're at and where you might hit roadblocks.
Sure. So far at the moment, I'm in the process of changing industry effectively. My whole career up until now has been in the education industry. My qualifications are related to that. I have done some training in public management at postgraduate level, and I have transferable skills, what I think are very transferable skills from management and administration, which I would like to take into the industry of project management.
Okay.
So I'm quite interested in project management because it exists in so many different industries. And my perception of the German job market is that a lot of firms expect you to be very specifically qualified in specific industries. I find this very different from my home of New Zealand. In New Zealand, it's not too difficult to take your experience from one industry and move into another. And so in preparation for this, I have been improving my German, of course, but also doing some project management online courses in line to hopefully get some.
Let me jump in there because I want to tie you back to your final goal, which is to successfully reach out to people who can help you get into this job. Have you actually tried this already?
So what I have done so far in terms of contacting people was I have been looking at the jobs that are available online at the moment via Xing and LinkedIn. And I have been looking at the people that work in those jobs and sort of doing some research on those people. But then in terms of what you suggest, approaching the hiring managers instead of HR, it's just the how. How do I approach them? Like, why would they want to talk to me about their company's problems?
Okay. Just for myself, so that I'm stay with you step by step. You achieved already two very important things, in my opinion. And please correct me if I'm wrong. First of all, you are able to find the jobs that you're interested in. No, that's one important thing. And it seems to me, from what you have said, that you are also able to identify the people that you need to reach in order to move forward with these companies.
Sometimes, not always. Sometimes it's very tricky. I think privacy law here in Germany is very strictly adhered to. And I think a lot of Germans don't have the same online profiles maybe that I'm used to back home. So I'm not saying it's easy to find these people online. Sometimes it is very difficult to find these people online. But what I wanted to get out of this coaching session was how to approach them when I do find them.
Okay, let's stay at this point for one second. In those cases where you cannot identify the manager, because HR is easy, but it's also not so useful. It's better to find the manager because that's the decision maker and he knows the job.
Sure.
In those cases where you can't find a manager, what do you think is your second best option? What could you do instead so that you don't have to give up this opportunity?
My method so far has been to just try and find people that have worked at that company, and from the roles that they are in, try and find out who that person would be. So if you form a network, basically.
Yeah. So if you cannot find the direct manager, you're looking for someone else who is working in this company. Is that correct?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. So that's often enough. No? So ideally, you find a manager. If you can't find a manager, you try to find someone else in the same department. If you can't find someone else in the same department, you look for a related department. For example, if you would be looking for a job in compliance, you would try to find someone in sales because they work very closely together. And if you get through to anyone, if you build a connection with them, then they usually are able to find out whom do you need to talk to and make an introduction.
Absolutely.
So I think that should be fine. Now to your main challenge. You said, how do you talk with them? Obviously, you mentioned already that you experienced that the culture here and the way how we look at business in Germany is different from your home in New Zealand. but you also already have some experience working, being efficient in a different culture. Of course, in preparation for this coaching, I prepared and I had a look at your profile, and I noticed that you spent a year in Korea.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. When you remember back the time when you started working as a language teacher in Korea, what was one adjustment that you needed to make in order to be efficient in that different culture, in the Korean culture?
I had to take note of and respect their cultural customs. So an example of this, I worked in a public school. The hierarchy there is very set. So if I needed help, say I needed resources for something, I had to speak to the head teacher of my department, and that head teacher then had to speak to the deputy principal, and the deputy principal had to speak to the principal, and it was very hierarchical, and you had to have a lot of patience and good timing. And you also had to actually go out to dinner with people and break the ice informally to be able to get what you wanted. So I found this quite indirect and very ineffective. I mean, it takes a long time to get what you need sometimes.
Mm-hmm. If you compare this now to how the same goal would have worked in the business culture in New Zealand, what would you have done in New Zealand?
In New Zealand, you would seek the help of your superior, of course, because presumably if you've got a good relationship with them, everything would go well. But the hierarchy is a lot more flat in a lot of companies in New Zealand. So it's not such a rigmarole to get the resources that you need for something.
Mm-hmm. And if you would have used the same approach in Korea, what would have happened? What would have been the results?
I think the difference is because of the cultural differences and because of the language barrier, it took a lot longer to form those relationships. Like you have to take the time to form those relationships before you can jump in with someone above you and ask for XYZ.
Mm-hmm. What do you think in Korea is really the deciding factor if you would have achieved your goal or not? You said you had to take people out to dinner, you had to build a relationship with them. The point of this relationship building, what is really going on here is usually trust. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's something really similar here in Germany. We have actually Koreans and Germans are often compared. They have a very similar culture and a very similar look at the world. In Germany, it's the same. In the end, the question that decides if someone will interact with you is trust. And trust has two aspects that you both need to address. The first aspect is, and that's basically human nature, it works with everyone. What are your intentions? Are you my friend or are you my foe? So we have to believe that you are on our side. The second aspect of trust is competence. Can you realize your intentions? If you're my foe, do you have the power to hurt me? If you're my friend, do you have the power to help me? So when you reach out to managers, one of the biggest challenge is to build trust with them. And if you can do this, then all the other objections to hiring you, they fall apart. Like it doesn't apply in your case, but many of my clients, they need a visa in order to work here. Yeah. This is a burden that many employers are not willing to take on unless they already have a relationship with you, unless they already trust you. So trust needs to be built first. And that should be the goal for you to reach out to managers, to build trust with them. And for that, you need them on the phone, like we are talking right now, because then you can have a back and forth and they can experience you.
Okay.
So how do you do this in a super short way? That's the question that we should look at today.
How do we get a phone conversation? Because I most certainly would not find their phone numbers easily online. I can find people's profiles, their work profiles, but I can't necessarily find phone numbers very easily online.
A very good question. It's like in Korea, you need time to build a relationship first. When you start with a phone call, that's actually a very big ask for someone to get on the phone with you. If you would just cold call them out of the blue, you would reach them in the office, or right now with COVID-19, you would reach them at home. In the background, there's the kids fighting.
Yeah.
Someone calls them in English, which they might be used to, might not be used to. And out of the blue, ask them something about their job. As a German person, the first question I ask myself is, who are you and what do you want from me?
Sure.
And the second question I ask is, why should I care?
Yeah.
So these are two questions you need to address right away. And if you start with a phone call, likelihood is that it will go nowhere. They will tell you to apply via the website and that's it.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help you. You build trust, not so much by sharing stuff about yourself, that's part of it, but mostly by making clear that your intentions are good. And your intention should be to help the manager. Because every time you apply to a job, who is really deciding who gets the job? Is it you or is it the manager?
The manager.
So whose opinion matters in the end of the day?
Oh, the managers.
Obviously. So when you talk with the manager, your goal should be to build trust and to find out what he or she needs. And if you can do this, then you're golden. Then you're 80% on the way already. You do this like you go on a date. No, you don't go on a date and your first proposal is to go home and go up for a coffee. That comes later. You first start to interest yourself in the other person and you build a relationship. And that starts, and that's something many people underestimate, how much effort you should make at every single step of the way. Because you constantly ask for favors. To even connect with you is a favor, because Germans don't do this. I know in other cultures, especially in English language countries, it's very typical to just connect on a light basis on LinkedIn and Xing and so on. In Germany, we don't do this. For example, I have, 1,500 connections or so on Xing, and every single person that I'm connected with, I have a relationship with. Mm-hmm. So we only connect with people when we see that there's a real relationship going on, which makes it very hard for you to get into, but makes it so much more valuable once you are in this circle.
Sure.
So, and now I switch a little bit from coaching to teaching, because there basically is one proven way that you can use. Is the first thing you should do when you look at the profile of the person that you want to reach out to, find one thing that you really respect about this person and write down in one word what it is, and then write down in one sentence why you respect it. Because put yourself in the shoes of the person who will receive your contact request. They know nothing about you. You are no one to them and you have a foreign sounding name. First thought for many people is spam, no?
Yes, absolutely.
No? So you have to make clear that you are not spam. And the way how you do this is by mentioning something really specific that applies only to this person.
Okay.
No? So that's the first objection you have to put out of the way. Hey, this is not spam. This is really addressed to you. And I spent some time learning something about you.
Yeah.
Which also is a sign of respect. And if you show respect to people, you get respect back.
Yeah.
In LinkedIn, you have 300 signs for a contact message. In Xing, you have 600 signs, because German language has very long words, so you need more space.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's really as simple as that, So the first sentence that you write should be about the other person. Hey, dear Shannon, I found your profile here while I was researching a job in this company, and you name the company. So that's the first sign that is not some generic message, it's specific. Then you mention one thing that you honestly respect about this person. I saw that you spent a year in Korea teaching underprivileged children. This immediately caught my attention since my wife is Korean and we have a family there. So you find something that connects you to this person. Some shared values, shared experiences, ideally shared contacts. If you can say, hey, I found you through our common friend Chris, then immediately you have a bonus on trust.
Yeah, sure.
Because there's someone who basically works for you. Even better is if you can get someone to introduce you. Like when it goes the other way around. I'm Chris and I talk to the contact, let's name him John. typical German name. Let's name him Hans. Okay. So, hello, Hans. I would like to introduce a friend of mine, Shannon, who is interested in a job that you have to offer right now.
So if I'm going to an online profile, you see, I find one thing that I really respect about that person. I have in one word what that is and one sentence about why I respect it. It's got to be very specific and unique to that person so that they know I'm not spam. I need to name the company, ideally a person in contact if we have that. So my goal then in contacting them is to let them know that I respect something about them so that it builds trust.
Yeah.
But also probably to get some sort of a phone call, you said? Or
The end goal is to get this person on the phone. Because only when you talk on the phone, only at that point you become a real person. Okay. Now, before you are just some dots on the computer screen. And when you have a phone conversation, you can ask follow-up questions. And the other person can ask you questions. And then you start to build a relationship. I studied business psychology, and research shows that you have to have at least 3 different kinds of interactions before trust is built, usually. No? So you start by having a conversation on Xing, then you get on the phone, then afterwards you send your CV, and this goes by email, and you have 3 different kinds of conversations. But we are still at this first message because there's more to it. The first thing you need to prove is, okay, this is not spam. And you need to show respect. This you sorted out now by mentioning the company and saying something personal. You are also transparent. No? Because you immediately say, hey, I want to talk with you about a job opening at your company. No? That's why I reach out to you. And with Germans, that's very important. You can ask for a lot as long as you are transparent.
Yeah.
And also, you only ask for one thing at a time. In this contact message, you don't write which job you are interested in. You just say, hey, let's connect. That's your ask. That's the favor you ask. Let's connect. Nothing else. No? This has 2 benefits. It's very easy to say yes. And the more often someone says yes to you, the more likely they are to say yes in the future because they get invested in you.
Yeah.
And also, it adds a little bit of curiosity because now he knows you are interested in a job, but he doesn't know which job. And the only way to find out is to connect with you.
Yeah.
So you arrange circumstances so that they play in your favor.
Sure.
No? That you don't have to struggle against the wave, but the wave is carrying you to the beach. So this first contact message is, hey, I found you because of company XY looking for a job opportunity. One thing I respect about you is this because of that. I would be glad if you could connect. That's it. Complete message. So what you will see after that very often. Any questions left about this part?
If my German's good enough, would it be better to do this in German to begin with?
If you're really fluent in German and you can keep on the conversation afterwards in fluent German, then yes. If not, then my advice is to do it in English.
Okay.
What happens is that if you speak with an accent, and you can hear my German accent, the danger is always that people will start to focus on your flaws and on your mistakes and stop listening to the content what you are saying.
Okay.
And especially in written form, they will, Germans are like that. We immediately look for the flaw. And
I know this very well because I have taught business German for 2.5 years.
Yeah, then you know how it is, So it's better to make them, and you have the added benefit that you are a native English speaker. So let them raise to your level. English is the international business language. Let them raise to your level.
Okay.
This part actually you will see is quite easy. So I keep records of everything I do. And since 2013, I have reached out to over 2,000 managers for my clients, for the experts, job offer guarantee clients. And I have a success rate of nearly 40%. If you can achieve something above 25%, and then later with refining, you will get to 35%, then you're golden. No? Because then this works, and you just need to keep doing it to have enough contacts to get you to your goal. There's a whole strategy behind it that I can't get into yet now because our half hour is nearly over.
Yeah.
What you will experience next is someone accepts your contact request. Then directly after this person sends your contact request, you write a follow-up message. No? Mm-hmm. And this should happen very fast because you have to use the momentum that you have. Because otherwise, people have lots of stuff in their life going on. They forget about you and they move on.
Absolutely.
So as fast as possible after you see he accepted your contact request, You write a follow-up message. And here, what you want now, here is the point where you ask for a conversation.
Okay.
And the way to get there is, again, to make clear from the very beginning that you actually want to do something that helps him as well, or her. So first you open with transparency, by saying, hey, this is the job I'm interested in. And you send a link to the job offer.
Okay.
In America, they have this nice saying of, let me help you, help me. The easiest way to make sure that other people help you is to do everything for them already. So that the only thing they have to do is to say yes.
Yeah.
So you send him the link to the job offer so that he doesn't need to search through the database which job this might be.
Yep.
Then you say, you make it about him and you say, hey, I'm interested in the job. I would like to apply, but I don't like to write generic applications. I would like to address the real challenges and goals of this position in my application so that it's easier for you to evaluate me.
Okay.
So that answers the question, what do I have from talking to you? And why don't you simply send your CV to HR? Would it be okay if we have a short phone conversation so I can ask you 2 short questions?
Okay.
And that's your complete ask. So you open with transparency. This is the job I'm looking for. You make it very easy for the other person to help you by sending the link. You explain what you want, which is you want to write a job application that addresses the real challenges. And it's important for the other person because it's easier for him to evaluate you or her. And then, only then, when you set the stage, then you ask for the favor, which is, hey, do you have 5 minutes to talk to me on the phone so I can ask you 2 short questions?
Yeah. And what are those short questions?
That's something we cannot cover in this call anymore because we're already 5 minutes past. You can find it actually in my book that you find on Amazon. It's called How to Win Jobs and Influence Germans.
Yep.
The one thing that I want to give you on the way, expect that every little step on this way, well, first, expect that you have to put this into a million little steps, just like you did in Korea. Expect that every little step is hard and that you will need some time and you need feedback from the real world in order to figure out what works best for you.
Okay.
But also expect that it actually works. So I do this since 2013. I helped over 100 expats to find a job in Germany. In the expat job offer guarantee, I guarantee that people get a job in 6 months. And in the first 3 months, they all feel a little bit hopeless, or many of them feel a little bit hopeless and they feel like something's wrong with them sometimes. But that's just the learning phase when you figure out how this process really works and how when you optimize what you're doing and finding out where is your niche in the market. And then in the second half, suddenly the results go dramatically up. And usually when they finished, they don't have one job offer, they have several job offers to choose from. So don't get disheartened when you implement this, when you don't see results right away. Just understand that you are gathering real world feedback. And that's my last tip for you. When you get this real world feedback, concentrate on the things that work better than usual. Ignore mistakes. Don't try to analyze what you do wrong. In the end, you only know what you shouldn't do. Focus on the things that worked better than usual and ask yourself, why did they work better? And then do them more. That's the fastest.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, for your time. I really appreciate that. I got some really, really good concrete things I could use there. Yeah, I definitely found that worthwhile.
From my side, I would be interesting to know, what is the one takeaway that you took from this conversation?
Well, I got a step-by-step list of things that I can actually do in how to approach hiring managers online. That was my goal. And I believe I have the notes here to start putting those things into practice.
Shannon, thank you very much for your call.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's it for today. I am really curious to hear, how did you like this episode? How did you like this style of recording a real world coaching call and sharing it with you so that you can take something away for your own life? If you would like to hear more of this style of coaching calls, please let me know either in the comments for wherever you are listening to this podcast, or you can drop me an email. I put the link to our website here in the show notes. My name is Chris Piak. I hope you enjoyed this episode and we hear each other again in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.